In a previous video, I talked about three major categories of negative entity experiences that people can have. And what I'd like to do in this video is dive into one of those. And this one is what I call pervasive negative entity attachments. So let's go ahead and dive in and explain what that means and what those experiences are like. I've been doing this for a few years now, and I've encountered a lot of different experiences that people have had with negative entities. And everyone's experience is completely different from everyone else's, but there are some similarities, just a few, that have started to help me categorize people's experiences into those boxes. And one of those boxes is one that I call pervasive negative entity attachments. The common symptoms in this case is, number one, the voices are there. In many negative entity cases, the person does not hear any voices whatsoever. In this one, you hear them a lot. They're very conversational. They're very interruptive. They chatter all the time. They try to convince you of things. They're very involved in your life. They observe what you're doing, and they might even comment on what you're doing. They'll say, oh, look what he's doing now, or look how she's trying to handle this, or whatever. You'll also often hear multiple voices. There are usually a handful of them. They're talking to each other as well as talking to you. And in these cases, these are the extreme cases. This pervasive negative entity category is definitely one where it's very challenging to get rid of them, and they've been with you in many cases for a very long time. The people who come to me with pervasive attachments have generally been dealing with them for years, and they've gone to all kinds of different light workers and shaman to try to have them removed. Maybe they go to a priest or other type, any type, all types of exorcists and exorcisms, and they're still there, they're still pervasive. They will often show up at the very beginning of the experience and suggest that they are your spirit guides, that they're there to help you, that they're there to teach you, and you should listen to what they have to say because they're going to guide you throughout your life. And so at first you're open to it. Oh, great, I've been hearing all about spirit guides. This is wonderful to actually be able to hear them this clearly. They're so obvious, and they're speaking to me directly. You know, this is a wonderful thing. But the problem is that before too long, they're doing something that you don't like. They're doing something negative to you. So one of the ways to tell, first of all, and I have another video on this, in being able to tell negative versus positive entities or energies, one of the things that you'll want to pay attention to is that never do positive guides give you advice. They might give you some light suggestions or some information, but they never say things, you should do this, or this is the way to happiness, or this is the way to whatever, or you need to avoid this at all costs, this is going to be really bad for you, and so on. There's so many reasons for this, but one of them is your highest vibrational spirit guides are not going to give you advice. You are on your own journey. They are there to support you, and they are there to help you and what you want to do with this journey, but they are never going to say one thing is better than something else. They're never going to say one thing is bad versus something else. It's really important, actually, that they don't do that. It's almost like, if you've ever watched Star Trek, the Prime Directive in Star Trek, it's like they're almost not allowed to interfere in that way. It is all up to you. So if you're hearing a voice that's telling you, you should do that or you shouldn't do this, the chances are pretty good that they are not of the highest vibrational frequency. They might be medium, and that would be fine too, but they also could be these pervasive entities. Also in pervasive entity attachments, people will often describe giant elaborate stories that these entities tell them. For example, I had one person tell me that these entities that had attached themselves to the individual accidentally got attached, and they couldn't figure out how to detach. They were stuck, and they were on their way to do something else, and now they find themselves trapped in their energy field. And they say, yes, you need to talk to this person, you need to talk to this person, you've got to extract us, we're stuck, we can't get out. This is most obviously a lie. This is them trying to rope you into their stories, into their situation. They're pulling on your heartstrings. Remember, these things are talking to you in your mind. They know what your thoughts are. They know all of your tricks and tactics. So as another piece of advice, you don't want to try to outsmart them because you're playing their game. They already know as soon as you try to be clever, they know the cleverness, the approach that you're taking, and they can understand it immediately. So engaging with them is generally not going to give you any positive result at all. In fact, it's going to give them energy. So think about it like a bully in high school. If you are giving your energy to the bully and trying not to have the thing happen to you, try to make the bully happy, or try to do things that you try to weasel your way out of the bully behavior or the bullying, it's never going to work, because now they know that you don't want this. And so they've got their victim all figured out. So in your case, in this situation, you do not really want to engage with them. It's not really going to give you any benefit at all. If anything, you're giving them your energy. So let's think of it a little bit like this. A negative entity attachment requires your energy in order to survive. It requires that it's going to pull the energy from you in order to use it for themselves. What is the energy that would match with them? Well, obviously a frequency match. So if you have fear about them, if you have anger about them, if you have disappointment in the situation, etc., that's going to be a vibrational match for the entity, and that you're going to give it more power. If you give it attention, that is another type of energy that you're providing it. So you definitely want to cool it, and for sure you don't want to get involved in their stories. Their stories are elaborate and engaging. They really want you to get your teeth sunk into their story, because that is you providing them with energy. So it's really important that you do other things, that you get excited about life, that you do positive things, that you find things to be grateful for, that you busy yourself. Over and over again, when I'm working with people with negative entity attachments of all types, when we get into our sessions, as soon as the session starts, they say, I feel so much better. Sure, it could be because I'm a very high frequency being and I'm radiating this positive energy and this unconditional love, and so the entity doesn't have as much power in that situation. Very possible. But more to the credit of the individual, they are distracted. So now they're listening, they're engaged in what I'm talking about, they're engaged in thinking about things in the way that I'm teaching them. So they're not as engaged in the entity themselves, listening to the story. They're not as engaged in their own suffering. They're actually distracted by something. So I really say, in many cases, people with pervasive entities will end up deciding that they can't do anything in life anymore, that they can't work anymore, and they can't have relationships, and so on, because it's so distracting and so difficult. Well, that is exactly what the entity wants. So you need to absolutely do the opposite of that. You need to find things to be excited about. You need to find things that motivate you and that get you going on things. We find over and over again with people with pervasive, we say, okay, so how are you feeling this week? Oh my gosh, I'm feeling great. My suffering scale has gone way down. Oh, okay, well that's wonderful. What do you think the reason is for that? Well, actually, it's because I've been excited about something. I've got a vacation coming up, or I've decided to engage in a project and I'm working really hard on a website or a painting or something like that. They say that the entity voices aren't as distracting anymore because their focus is on something else. So important to engage in something that distracts and excites you, and not to engage in the stories and the BS that the entities are telling you. The other thing that really helps in this situation is raising the vibrational frequency of the individual. This is something that I've put a lot of time and effort and energy into when working with people in my class or on one-on-one, so that now the voices aren't as problematic. Even though they say negative things, you don't believe it anymore because your frequency is so high. You aren't engaged. You don't have fear of them anymore because your frequency is so high. And in those cases now, their impact on your life is reduced. Their voices get quieter and you start to dismiss the things that they're telling you. This is huge and a very important part of the whole healing process and getting over these negative entities. Another thing is huge is stepping into your power. Yes, they're powerful enough that they're stuck to you right now, but are they so powerful that they could do worse? Can they kill you? Can they make you even more miserable? Generally, well, for certain they can't kill you. If they did that, then they would lose the being that they're attached to. So they're not going to want to do that. They might threaten it, but they don't actually want that. They want to stay attached to you for as long as possible. Can they make your life more miserable than it already is? It very rarely can they, especially for those of you who have been experiencing them for months or years. They've pretty much done their worst. There's not going to be much more that they can do to you that they haven't already done. So you don't need to have fear that things are going to get worse. You can drop that altogether. And in that stepping into your power process, you can say, hey, I've made it this far. I don't care what you guys do now. I am way more powerful than you. I work with an extremely powerful, high-frequency collective of multidimensional beings who can do a lot for your vibration, your healing, your overcoming your childhood traumas and blockages. Not all energy healing is created equal, and this is super important in getting yourself out of this situation. If you are one of the unlucky few who are dealing with pervasive negative entity attachments, I want you to know you definitely have a challenge on your hands. And I want to encourage you very strongly to invest in yourself and work with someone who has a program similar to mine that can teach you how to raise that frequency, how to step into your power, and how to use that mind. One of the things that we do so often is we apply our problem-solving minds. Our problem-solving minds are amazing. They're very good at figuring out three-dimensional issues. Oh, there's a leak on the roof. I should go up on the roof and try to figure out where it is. Oh, there it is. The flashing is not connected to the chimney very well. Okay, I can either do this myself or I can hire a professional and they're going to fix that flashing. All done. But when you use that brain to try to figure out, why do I have negative entity attachments? Why do I have this situation going on? Why can't I get rid of them? What do I need to do to get rid of them? On and on and on. This overthinking about this situation, trying to solve it using a three-dimensional approach, all it does is perpetuates the problem. And guess what? Your pervasive entity attachments are listening to everything that you're doing. They're like, oh my gosh, we got them. They can't figure it out. Listen to them try to figure it out. They're blaming themselves. Perfect. They're blaming everyone else. Perfect. They don't know how to do it. Yes. You know, think about it. Everything that you're doing when it comes to all of that is actually, again, giving them energy. So relax, because you've got them. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter what you've done to deserve such a thing. That doesn't matter at all. We're now in a new situation. And moving forward, the solution to it needs to be your approach, rather than what did you do in the past? What have I done wrong? Why can't I get rid of them? Those are questions, even if you knew the answers to, guess what? You still have the entities. So you really need to work very hard on all those things that I've already talked about. So I'd like to go ahead and give an activation for this video. You can see many of my activations in other videos have removing negative entity attachments. These activations are extremely effective when you're dealing with elusive, the category of elusive, or if you have a neurochemical influence going on, my other category. In this category, it's a completely different experience. The removal activations generally doesn't do much at all. So our focus is not on removing the entities at the beginning. That comes later. Early on, what we want to do is we want to help you start to separate your experience, your 3D human experience, from the influence of the negative entity attachments. So this activation is going to help you put those negative entities into a box. Let me explain that. So in everyday life, when you're walking around and dealing with people or trying to work or whatever, and you're hearing the negative entities, you're hearing them all around. You're hearing them from every direction. They are very pervasive in your brain. They feel like they are taking over your brain. And in many cases, they might even feel like they're taking over your body. So what we're going to do is, again, we're not going to try to remove them at this time. We've got a lot more work before we're going to be successful doing that. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to help you put them into a crystal. So what you're going to do is you're going to picture this big crystal in your head, in your mind, and you're going to put the entities inside that crystal. So that crystal is, I'm calling it a box, as in we are setting them aside, and they are not everywhere. They are not constantly attacking us. Actually, they're in this little crystal and they're over here. You can still hear them. They're going, hey, wait, what about me? But they are not necessarily just right here in your face. This takes some mental practice on your part as well. So this activation isn't necessarily just going to boop, put them in the box for you. I would love that. But because this is something that you're going to have to work on really hard, all I'm doing is I'm opening you up to the possibility of being able to do this and making it easier for you to do this. Okay, so if you've never participated in my activations before, they're nice and quick and easy. So what I'd like for you to do right now is close your eyes and take a nice big deep breath. And relax as you exhale. Feel yourself sinking into the chair or the bed that you're sitting in. If you hear the negative entities right now, just ignore them. All you're hearing is white noise. Their actual voices can't even be discerned because you're focusing instead on my voice. So in this activation, while I do this, I want you to picture placing them into a crystal. Whatever crystal you choose is the right one. It could be a clear quartz, or it could be a rose. Whatever you want to put them in is totally fine. So go ahead. While I do this, I'm going to say breath in. When I do, you're going to take a nice big deep breath. You're going to hold it at the top, and you're going to wait for me to say a loud explosive word, and then you can exhale. So picturing putting your entity, your pervasive entities, into a crystal. Breath in. Awake! Good. Good. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for participating in that activation. Like I said, nice and quick and easy. So what we've done is we've set in motion a new timeline for you. In this timeline, you are going to be able to put these entities into a separate box, a crystal. They will not be as pervasive. They will not be as in your face. They will not feel like they're all around you. They'll feel like they're off to the side. This, again, is the first step toward making it so that we can make other progress in other areas. If you were to join one of my programs, one of my classes, or work with me on a mentorship one-on-one, then this will come sooner because we'll be doing all kinds of other work to get you to the point where this will be very easy for you to do, or at least much easier for you to do. So I would love it if you set up a call with me if this interests you. I have a link in the description below. You can go ahead and do that, and we can talk about ways that we can work together. At the very least, I would recommend that you download an activation off of my website. There's actually a couple of them that you might find useful. One of them is an empowerment activation that will help you recognize how powerful you are in comparison to the negative entities. This you can find on my website in the link below, and you can also download a free one. It's a halo chakra activation. This is the chakra just above the crown, and what this does is it gives a little bit extra protection against more negative entities coming your way. If you have any questions at all, I really encourage you to leave a comment below. I'd be happy to answer them. This is a complicated situation for many of you who are experiencing pervasive entities, and it isn't something that I can really sum up in a short video. This takes a long time. That's why I have a 7-week program teaching people how to deal with them, how to work with them, and what they need to do to change about themselves to make their path to removal so much easier. Thank you so much for participating in this activation, for watching this video, for leaving a comment, for liking and subscribing, because I'll be doing lots more videos on negative entity attachments, solutions, and ways that you can move through your life way better than you have been so far. I love you unconditionally, and I'll see you in the next video.